I did some research on A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a play written by Shakespeare, and then I wrote a parody of my literary analysis to the tune of Letters from War by Mark Schultz. However, before I get to the song, I wanted to give you a little bit of background information just in case you'd never read the play before. It was written between 1595 and 1596. People don't know exactly when, but it was written about the same time as Richard II and Romeo and Juliet. Some people speculate that it could have been written for an aristocrat's wedding with Queen Elizabeth in attendance, but as with most things with Shakespeare, we don't know for certain. A Midsummer Night's Dream is set in ancient Greece, particularly Athens, where Theseus is the duke. So when this play starts, he has conquered the Amazons, which are an ancient race of warrior women, and because he did this, he's marrying Hippolyta, one of the Amazonian women. And this seems, even though he conquered her people and is marrying her, it seems like a happy affair, and they're both kind of looking forward to the wedding, which is happening in 4 days. The 4 days will become important as it is a sort of deadline for Hermia and Lysander. They are in love and want to get married, except that Hermia's father disapproves of Lysander and wants her to get married to Demetrius. He goes before Duke Theseus and asks for this ancient custom to be carried out where Hermia can either marry Demetrius, the one her father wants, or she can be put to death. And this is the ultimatum that Hermia gets, and so she decides to run off with Lysander to get married to him in secret because she does not want to marry Demetrius. One interesting thing I came across during my research is the idea that A Midsummer Night's Dream is the opposite, the comedy version of Romeo and Juliet. In Romeo and Juliet, as many know, there are the two lovers that try to run away together so that they can get married and be with each other, but all this crazy stuff happens and they end up failing. And then in A Midsummer Night's Dream, Lysander and Hermia run away together so that they can try to get married and be with each other, and a lot of crazy stuff happens and they end up succeeding. So I definitely see how they think that, especially with knowing that Romeo and Juliet was written about the same time as A Midsummer Night's Dream, but it could be a stretch, but it was just an interesting thing I wanted to know. So without further information, I'm going to get to the song that I wrote.
The play wrote by Shakespeare, A Midsummer Night's Dream, 1595 or 6 is when it was written. There's a play some compared to called Romeo and Juliet. They were written same time, they're like opposite plays. One turns out happier, and that might be a stretch. I'm just relaying the fact that some call these two opposite plays. Shakespeare's plot lines, they're good and complex. There are 4 I can name for you now: lovers and the royals, the fairies and the mechanicals. And as for the lovers, there's no love triangle. A Midsummer Night's Dream is far more complex because Hermia loves Lysander, he does love her back, but her dad likes Demetrius, who's loved by Helena. The fairies make Lysander, making him love Helena. Then they make Demetrius fall in love with her too, and no one loves Hermia, so Hermia hates Helena. The boys start to fight with each other, while meddling fairies look on in distress. And though things got tangled, Puck fixes his mistake. Each loves who they ought to have loved. Hermia with Lysander, Demetrius ends up with Helena. They go home, they get married, with the blessing of King Theseus. And one cannot forget Bottom and mechanicals. Put on Pyramus and Thisbe, a play within a play. And Bottom breaks the fourth wall, and the walls was physical. They taught the audience how to interact with the players when watching the play. And the play ends with her giving a thoughtful last speech. Maybe all of the magic's a dream.
The Mechanicals are a troupe of actors presenting Pyramus and Thisbe within the play A Midsummer Night's Dream. I mentioned that Bottom breaks the fourth wall in this play. Well, he plays Pyramus, and when Duke Theseus makes a comment that he needed to add more to his speech as Pyramus, Bottom takes a step back and explains to Duke Theseus why he is not able to do that from an actor's perspective. And in Pyramus and Thisbe, there's a character called Wall, which is the physical wall, and the person portraying it explains to the audience what the wall is there for. So we have a wall that is breaking the fourth wall. And I think that's just a cool thing that Shakespeare did within A Midsummer Night's Dream. To end my literary analysis of A Midsummer Night's Dream with one of the more famous quotes from the play. This is spoken by Lysander in the midst of all this craziness that happens between all the lovers in this play. The course of true love never did run smooth. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have learned a little bit about A Midsummer Night's Dream. If you have not read the play already, go give it a read. It's definitely worth your time.